Well, I know that you are regularly at the gym. You're doing
Yes.
bar 11 classes. It is
Yeah.
bar 11, right?
It is bar 11.
Okay. And for those who don't know, that's like micro movements.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do. You can do Pilates suspension, which is the straps from the wall. You can do rebounding, which is the little trampolines. But bar in its purity are micro movements, so you exhaust the muscle faster. So overall, bar 11.
All right. So that's what you've been doing.
Mhm.
A lot of exercises that we do, though, are built around natural movements. We do this so
True.
that we can be better at something in the quote unquote real world.
Think about doing the dishes. It's like rowing.
Okay.
You know?
Really? So I'm curious, like, what does bar 11 help you with in the world outside of a bar 11 class?
Well, it strengthens a lot. I mean, it strengthens your body, right? So that I notice in my arms, I have my entire life, I would tell you I have no upper body strength at all. None. And the last couple of years, it's been slowly building. So now I feel like when I'm going to lift something, I have something to lift with. You and I had to move a desk the other day.
We did.
And before this, I would not have even been able to levitate it at all. Now, it was too heavy for me. I couldn't like get everything moving the way I could. But then when we put it on the dolly, I was able to muscle my end of it. I couldn't have done that before, Steve.
Okay.
I know you may think, yeah, I know you were totally weak, but I would have
But
just
you're
looked
getting
at
stronger.
you. I would have looked at you
Yeah.
and said, "You want who are you looking at to move that desk? Like you're not looking at me."
You were
So
willing to
it
jump
is.
in and try.
I
Or it sounds like a few
yes.
years ago, you probably wouldn't have even
Nah,
tried.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
have even tried because
Okay.
it would have been futile.
All right. All right.
So you think about that, your core, your
Sure.
legs, all the things.
All right. Well, there's this new trend that I guess is a thing. You actually sent me an article all about it, and I was kind of curious as to what in the world is
What
this
is
thing?
it?
Because it does, in theory, imitate or mimic something that happens out in the quote unquote real world, life outside the gym. Rucking.
I never heard of it.
So I had not either until you sent this article.
Kind of interesting though, don't you
Yeah.
think?
So what is rucking?
Rucking goes back to it's a military thing that the guys and gals that are trained in what do you call that? Calisthenics or whatever. There's a word for that. They take something heavy like a backpack full of weight.
They're rucksacks.
Rucksacks, and they put them closely to the back. That's a very key thing when you're rucking. And so from that, of course, now the private sector has gotten a hold of this, and a lot of people are doing it. You don't necessarily watch Food Network.
I don't.
Okay,
No.
we are big Food Network fans. And Guy Fieri, evidently, he's a restaurateur and he's a host on there.
He's the one with the
he is.
spiky blonde
Yeah, yeah.
hair.
He's
Okay.
lost like 30 pounds doing rucking because it just adds, if you walk, you may burn 125 calories. If you're rucking, then you may burn 325 calories. It like doubled or tripled. Yeah.
Wow. So does he do it when he cooks now?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I just
I'm just picturing him on the show and there.
as I was trying to figure out rucking and what it is and why it's beneficial, I was just reading through the article and I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. But there are some pitfalls too.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
What are the pitfalls?
If you don't load your rucksack or your backpack correctly with distributed weight, if your weight is too heavy, if it's not snug up against your back, you're going to cause yourself more problems than the benefit of rucking.
Yeah, I'm just looking through this. It's going to, if you don't do it right, like you said, lower back pain, lower body pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, plantar fasciitis, heel pain, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, and like, no.
When I read it, my back started hurting. Just thinking about
Right.
putting extra weight against. Now, if you did it tight enough and it wasn't super heavy to kind of build your stamina.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense because the other day I saw this guy walking down one of the main thoroughfares in town and he had a backpack on, but he looked like he was out exercising. I'm like, what are you doing? Now, I know some people, like if they're going on backpacking trips,
Sure.
they'll start training, but I don't know. There was something odd about the way just seeing him struck me. And I'm like, what's going on there? Maybe he was rucking.
Maybe he was rucking.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? Could be. But if you had to go rucking somewhere, where would you go?
The beach.
Rucking in
Do
the
you
sand.
not know me?
That's a
Yes.
workout too. having to walk in the sand?
I try to avoid it. I love the beach, but I try.
What?
I like the flat places in the sand, the one that's really compact.
Where it's all packed down,
Yeah,
the
but when you
water's,
have to come down like the stairs to get to the place you want on the beach, and it's just like heavy work, I'm like, hurry up, let's get there. I don't like that at all. I know. I'm a princess. What can I say?
Hmm. Yeah. At least you're owning it.
I mean,
That's
I
good.
do it. I
Yeah.
do that. And I tell myself, like, this is where you coach yourself, right? You're like, you just buck up, sister. You got this. And I'll dig my little heels in and get to the place and try to make it fun and, beneficial. But I have to coach.
Got to coach yourself
I got
up.
to coach.
Yeah. Well, there are some places around the world that I think it would be absolutely fascinating to go check out. And if I had to be rucking to do it, I suppose I would, but
You
I'd
would?
prefer not.
And where would you go?
Whoa, man, there are lots of places that I would go. Beach would be one
Yes.
for sure, but what beach are we talking about here? And where are some of the places that might be interesting to check out? USA Today has published a list of 10 off-beaten path destinations that they say these are the places to go check out in 2025.
I have been waiting for someone to do an off the beaten path because every time you see some kind of travel article, it is always, the predictables. And I'm like, there's got to be places that are nice that are not everybody, and therefore the cost goes up.
Right.
The off the beaten path sounds really good to me.
Now, some of these I can't pronounce. But there's,
Like
as I'm
Bora
looking,
Bora?
well, that one I got.
Okay.
That one I know, but and I think that is on the list here. But the top one that just looks super interesting is this place in Colombia. It's in the Colombian Amazon, and they say it's the perfect destination if you want to connect with nature. The Macure Hills, I guess, spectacular views, incredible experiences. You may even have the opportunity to come in contact with the indigenous peoples there, and cost affordable, sustainable tourism is also a part of this kind of thing.
How connected to nature are we talking here?
Well, it looks like you're going to be doing a lot of hiking if you're going to be doing this, a lot of walking around some of the Colombian rainforest area, and it really does look beautiful.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I'm not seeing pictures of fancy resorts or anything like that.
I think it would be really fun to try something like that, and I would be 100% in. I would want somebody though that knows the area to be
Yeah.
available to guide you through that, because when you encounter the bugs that are the size of your face,
And some of them are.
I want someone to be there to help me because I don't think I would be a big fan of that.
All right. You mentioned Bora Bora a moment ago. Is that a place you want to go?
I've never been, but I mean, even the name sounds fancy, don't you think?
Sounds fancy. That's why you want to go?
Fancy like?
What if I told you there were no beaches in Bora Bora? Would you still want to go?
Really? There are no beaches
Oh, there
in
are a
Bora
lot
Bora?
of beaches in Bora Bora,
Oh,
but I know
I
you're a
was
beach
gonna
girl, so I'm
say,
like, you want
what?
to go to Bora Bora just because it sounds fancy?
And has beaches.
And it does have beaches.
That's the one thing I thought I knew, and it is true.
Beautiful water.
Come on now.
Yeah, great beaches, some incredible places. And apparently, some of the islands in Bora Bora, there are certain islands that are going to be a little bit more expensive
Sure.
than others. But there are some little off the beaten path in the French Polynesian area that you can go check out and save yourself some cash, I guess.
I am all about it. And that brings up a really good point. Something I was reading recently about, I do love the beach. And the Amazon jungle, that sounds pretty fun and amazing and experiential. You're going to learn something. But sometimes I find myself like, oh, and I'll tell Ben, I need beach therapy. I
Yeah.
need beach therapy right now. Now it doesn't come, but typically it doesn't. But what is that in us that is seeking something like, I love to travel? Okay, Lord, I want to travel. Let's go. It feels like you're trying to fill something with, nature, Amazon forest, right? Very
Yeah.
cool. Or the beach, just sit and quiet. I've told you the story about when Hannah was little. She was like 3 or 4. First time
Yeah.
we ever went to the beach as a family. And I had told the kids before we left, when we go, don't ask go to go-karts. We're not miniature golfing. We're not doing anything. We were on a budget.
Yeah.
We're going to sit our butts on the beach. And Micah May, one day in, Mom, what else can we do? And sweet little 4-year-old goes, Micah, didn't you listen to Mom? We are sitting our butts on the beach. And back to playing in the sand that she went. But so, but that's therapy for me. That's quiet. That's looking at God's creation. You think we ever do that instead of looking to God?
Oh, sure. I think it's very easy to do that. And a number of reasons that we might do that. One, I think that we have a enemy who would say, rather than look at the creator,
Mhm.
let's look at the creation. And if I can get you to worship the creation instead of the creator, well, good.
Yeah, job done.
Yeah, job done right there.
We're
Right?
distracted. And you think about all the things God's given us that we may love, like whether you grill steak on a daily basis or never. If you like steak, there's something aesthetic about that.
Yeah.
Right? Fulfilling the creation. We're talking about Bora Bora and Tahiti and the mountains we can't pronounce and the beach therapy. And there are so many different things, relationships, new cars, things that we would love to be able to get because we always think that they're going to fulfill something. It takes me back early in our marriage, 5 love language quiz. Mine was gifts.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
had a friend who owned a jewelry store, and I'd go in and look through the case and just love, and then I'd tell Ben. And so maybe for my birthday or our anniversary, he would try to get one of those items every several years. I loved them. And then about 3 days later, it'd be like, that's,
What's the next one going to be?
yeah.
What's the next one after that?
And of course, I
Yeah.
was young enough that I got it, but I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And now it's totally changed. My love language is not gifts anymore. I still love them, and they still make your heart sing. But it's just, I don't know. Don't spend the money
Right.
because it's in my jewelry box.
Exactly.
you know.
There's something about when you see the habit of, I've done this a number of times
Mhm.
and it did not give the fulfillment that I thought it would. Still enjoyable. Like I said, still great to receive a gift. Still love going to the beach. Still like to get in an airplane and travel somewhere. But it does not bring the lasting
Right.
enjoyment, the
Right.
lasting fulfillment that you'd hoped it might.
Even traveling to all these different destinations, as wonderful, and the anticipation, as wonderful as being there. And then I don't know about you, but when I come home from a trip, I tend to have this disconnect of getting back into the
Into the routine.
routine. And
Yep.
yeah, but you think, oh, now that's going to bring peace. I'm going to have this time of relaxation. You can talk to the Lord. You can just be quiet. It's going to be great. And then it doesn't last.
Yeah.
Just like the bracelet or the ring, it doesn't last. And unless we understand what will last, it's just going to keep being a repetitive process of us trying to fill our hearts and our souls with something that does not bring eternal rest, which is what we're craving.
Sure.
And that's what Paul David Tripp, when I was reading that, was talking about.
Yeah, I think that there are many of us who can probably look back at times and seasons of our lives where we were crazy busy. And you just think, all I need is a week away on the beach, in the mountains, doing whatever. And I'm going to recharge and I'm going to be able to re-enter life again. And it's going to be great because I've had that opportunity to sit, hike, whatever that thing is that brings you that recharge and that peace. And then you get back home, and within a week or two, that feeling is back. The
Not
feeling
even
of potential burnout and all of
24
that.
hours.
Right? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's the jar of reentry and, trying to find our legs, get them under us again. But man, even when we do that, sometimes that feeling comes right back pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And you begin thinking about, all right, when's the next trip? When's the next piece of jewelry? What's the next car going to be? Whatever that thing is that you think is going to make you happy. And it was not until I realized that was one of the things that I had been doing, believing the myth that was going to allow me to recharge, that I realized, okay, that's not the thing. Got to find something else.
When did you realize it?
That's a good question. I think to a certain degree, I could have told you intellectually
Mhm.
a long time ago, but it's probably been within the last 8 to 10 years.
Okay. What
Maybe even 6 years.
do you remember? I don't. I suspect it wasn't a cataclysmic moment where you went, "Oh," but maybe it was a process.
It was a process.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you remember the Lord teaching you through that, or how did you come to realize, "Oh, that's what I've been doing"?
Well, this was back in the time when both my wife and I were working.
Mhm.
And so we had a little bit more of an income and we could actually travel a little bit more than
Sure.
we do now. And so we actually began to travel more frequently
Mhm.
and go to different nicer destinations and it was fun. It was
Sure.
great, but the increase of that did not help.
Hmm.
The trips are great. We had a good fun time
Oh,
and
sure, but then
enjoyed
you
being
gotta come
together,
back to
but then you
reality.
gotta come back to the reality and you realize, okay, that did not give me what I thought it would,
Mhm.
at least long term.
Sure.
Yeah. And so it was a process of trying it and realizing, yeah, no, that doesn't work.
Now how do you view it?
And so I think what God showed me through that is really it's not only is enjoyment found in him, but rest
Mm.
is truly found in him as well. And I think that's why sometimes when we can feel like, oh, I'm just exhausted. I need a couple good nights sleep and I'm going to be okay.
Mhm.
And we do that. Or we set aside time for a nap and we kind of really reprioritize and orient our life and making sure that we're getting the rest we need and it's not helping.
Right.
It's because we're not actually truly finding real rest,
Mhm.
which is found in that relationship with him. And I think that's where when we do spend true time resting in him, we can be just as busy
Mhm.
and we have the peace and we have the rest and we have the energy and we have this because our rest is found in him, not in trying to manufacture it just by managing my schedule differently.
Do you think that you mentioned intellectually, like we as believers, if we've been walking with the Lord for a while, we understand He built in rest for Israel. I mean, the Sabbath
Yeah.
that was important, and then we for a long time in the church would take Sundays as a day of rest, and then and what I mean by that is like no mowing the grass, stores were closed, all the things that are now
Yeah.
forget it because we don't want to live under the law. We want to have grace and so go ahead and mow that grass. Go ahead and do, your grocery shopping on Sunday, whatever. It, but what we did was take the rest out of it. So it really wasn't about keeping the law or grace. It was about filling the time that God said, "Hey, just make sure you're setting aside time to rest and rest in me
And that's
because
just
there's
it.
the difference."
Learning to rest in him
Mhm.
is, I think, the huge component of that right there. Because I could not mow the grass, and I could not, change up the schedule and not go grocery shopping. I can find something else to do
Sure.
that I enjoy, rest, downtime, whatever. But it doesn't bring the rest, the recharge,
Right.
the peace that comes when we actually learn to rest in Him.
So back to the intellectual part of that, we can say, yeah, 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 I know that. What do we have to do to take it from knowledge to action? What does resting in the Lord look like?
I think there's an element of, and maybe I'm the only one, but I doubt it. There's an element
Yeah,
of
probably not.
I have to actually walk through it and experience it before it kind of moves from the head to the heart in terms of like, oh, that's what God was talking about.
Hmm.
That's what this friend of mine was talking about who's learned this lesson before I did. Oh, it's actually, I think, beginning to have those experiences where it does move from just this intellectual concept to, okay, I get it now because I've done it or it's
Hmm.
happened.
Hmm.
And I think a big part of it is the discipline. And I know that for some people that's a dirty word, but I think it's the discipline of really trying to set aside distraction and spend time with the Lord.
Yeah.
because the more time that we spend, the more intimate time that we spend with him. And I don't mean just open your Bible and read it for 10 minutes and think that that's going to provide that rest,
Mhm.
but that time that we spend with him in his word, in prayer, in worship, talking with him, meditating on him and his truth, it is amazing how that does bring a spiritual rest unlike anything else.
One thing I know he's asked of me lately is start writing things down. And I have kicked the journaling craze. I have just completely been resistant to that. But it's the only way that I can get Don Remay's brain to like calm down
Mm.
enough to focus.
Yeah,
Because you have to be intentional. We say that word
right.
intentional and focus. And I thought, how am I going to get a little deeper into this, Lord, and sit with you without my brain firing all over the map? Got to do this, got to do this. And he was like, start writing it down. Like,
Mm.
write down your prayers to me, write down what you're thinking. And it brings my little squirrel chasing brain to a place where when I go to a passage and what strikes me, what the Spirit's teaching me, I'll write that down. And then how he's developing that. And then you walk away from that because then maybe you take the time to thank him for who he is. You've learned something in that passage. Lord, your faithfulness,
Mhm.
you're my shield, you're my protector. Thank you for that. It gives you a perspective on him, and the circumstances are waiting. Like you're still going to have life when you come away from that, right? Life's still going to pick back. But when you go back to that situation in your life, your perspective has changed because you've looked at the character of God.
Yeah.
You've looked at the truth that he's in you if you have a relationship with him. This is cataclysmically different than 5 minutes before I sat down with him to focus, to
Mhm.
rest, to spend time with him. And if music is key to you, then start singing a song. I've got a few songs that run through the head, and I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm going to just start lifting this up to you. And again, the focus comes into your mind so that you're being changed from the inside out. And then we react to one another differently.
Yep.
And you just cultivate that little bits at a time. My all or nothing personality is another reason that journaling was so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I can't sit and write for hours. I don't have that kind of time. He's like, just write down, spend a few minutes. You don't have to write your whole life down, just something. Oh, and looking back over his faithfulness as you go back and read some of those pages, dude,
Pretty cool to
brings
look at.
rest
Yeah.
all over again.
Yeah. Well, I'm all for doing that and maybe doing that in Tahiti,
Yeah, yeah.
one of the places on this list here.
Come on now.
Yeah, let's do that there. Well, glad that you've joined us
Double thumbs
here
up.
on Don and Steve Plus. And is there a place that you think should be on this list? Love to know that. Is there a way that you found that you've been spending time with God and He has given you that rest in Him?
Mhm.
Maybe you've got a story of how you've learned that. Love to hear that as well. You can give us some feedback, whatever platform that you may have been connected with us on. If there's an opportunity to leave comments, you can do that there. You can also connect through the website. The website is simply donandsteveplus.com. You can even give a gift of support there. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being our plus one.